My name is Ethan Cole, and there was a time in my life when I became invisible. Not in the way people think. I didn't disappear. I was still there, sitting on the same sidewalk every day, same street, same corner, same worn-out guitar resting on my lap. If you walked past me, you would see me. You would hear the music. You might even notice the small pile of coins in front of me. But none of that meant I existed, because being seen is not the same as being recognized. And I learned that the hard way. Every single morning, at almost the exact same time, they would walk past me, my family, close enough that I could hear their footsteps, close enough that I could recognize their voices, close enough to know that they knew it was me. But they never stopped. They never slowed down. They never even turned their heads. It was like I was just another part of the street, something temporary, something insignificant, something you don't think about once you walk past it. And at first, I told myself it didn't matter, that I didn't need them, that I would figure things out on my own. But the truth is, when the people who are supposed to care about you act like you don't exist, it does something to you, slowly, quietly. It breaks something inside. You start questioning everything, not just your situation, but your value, your worth, your place in the world. I remember sitting there one night, long after everyone had gone home. The street was empty, cold, silent, and I looked down at the few coins in my guitar case, and I thought, is this it? Is this all I'm ever going to be? Just another guy on the street, playing songs nobody asked for, hoping someone drops a few coins so I can make it through the next day. Because when you live like that long enough, you stop thinking about the future. You stop dreaming. You stop believing things can change. You just focus on surviving, hour by hour, day by day. And for a long time, that was my life. Until something happened that didn't make any sense at all. I spent the last money I had, not on food, not on shelter, but on a small, injured cat that nobody else even noticed. It was lying there on the side of the road, weak, alone, forgotten. And for some reason, I couldn't walk away. Maybe because I saw something in it, or maybe because, for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was the only one who had been left behind. So I made a choice, a stupid one, if you looked at it logically, but a choice that would change everything. Because a few months later, I would be standing on a stage in front of thousands of people, lights in my eyes, cameras everywhere, a chance to win more money than I had ever imagined. And the same people who once walked past me like I didn't exist would finally have to look at me again. I wasn't always like that. I didn't grow up on the street. I didn't start with nothing. That's what made everything harder to accept. Because from the outside, my life looked normal. We had a house, a routine, a structure that made it seem like everything was stable. My father worked long hours. He wasn't the kind of man who talked much, but he showed up every day, consistent, reliable, the kind of person you expect to hold everything together. And my mother, she was the heart of it all. She made that house feel like home. She was the one who noticed the small things, the one who made sure I was okay, the one who made everything feel safe. When she was around, I never questioned where I belonged. I just knew I did. But that didn't last. She got sick, and it happened faster than anyone expected. At first, it didn't seem serious. Just small signs, things you don't pay attention to until it's too late. Then suddenly, everything changed. Hospital visits, silence at home, tension in the air, and one day, she was gone, just like that. No warning that felt real, no explanation that made sense, just absence. And after that, nothing ever felt the same. My father tried to hold things together in his own way, but he didn't know how to deal with it. So instead of fixing what was broken, he tried to replace it. A year later, he remarried, and that's when everything started to shift. At first, it was subtle, polite conversations, controlled interactions, nothing openly negative, but something felt off, like I was being tolerated, not accepted. She had her own life before us, her own priorities. And eventually, her children moved in too. 2 daughters, confident, put together, everything I wasn't at the time. And slowly, the house changed, not physically, but emotionally. They became the center, the focus, the standard, and I became something else. Not completely pushed out, but never fully included. It started with small things, conversations that stopped when I entered the room, plans I wasn't invited to, moments where I felt like an outsider in my own home. Then it became more obvious. Comparisons, constant. You should be more like them. They're more focused. They know what they're doing. And you? That question never needed an answer, because the answer was already decided. I wasn't enough. Not for her. Not for that house. And over time, that belief started to shape everything. I stopped trying to compete, stopped trying to prove anything. I just needed something that belonged to me, something no one could take away. That's when I found music. My guitar wasn't expensive, it wasn't perfect, but it was mine. And when I played, everything else disappeared. No judgment, no comparison, no pressure, just sound, just something real. But in that house, none of that mattered, because no matter what I did, I had already been labeled, already placed in a role that didn't change. And eventually, that tension became something I couldn't ignore anymore. Arguments became normal. Blame became constant. Every mistake became proof that I didn't belong. Until one day, it stopped being tension and became a decision. The day I left that house wasn't dramatic. There was no big fight, no shouting, no moment where everything exploded at once. It was quieter than that, which somehow made it worse. It started like any other day, tension in the air, the kind you get used to, but never really stop feeling. I remember walking into the kitchen. They were already there, her and her daughters, talking, laughing, until I stepped in. Then everything stopped. That silence. It wasn't new, but that day, it felt different, heavier, more final. She looked at me, not angry, not emotional, just decided. You can't stay here anymore. That was it. No explanation, no discussion, just a statement, like it had already been agreed on, like my opinion didn't matter, like I didn't matter, I didn't respond right away. I just stood there, trying to process what she had just said, because even though I had felt it coming, hearing it out loud was different. It made it real. I looked at my father. That was the moment that mattered. Not what she said, but what he would do. I waited for him to say something, to step in, to stop it, to at least question it. But he didn't. He just stood there, silent, avoiding my eyes. And in that moment, I understood everything. This wasn't her decision. It was his, too. He just didn't have the strength to say it. "You've been causing too many problems," she continued. "You don't fit here. You need to figure your life out somewhere else." Somewhere else. Like this place had never been mine. Like I had just been passing through. I wanted to argue. I wanted to say something. To defend myself. But what was the point? When the decision was already made, words don't change anything. So I didn't fight. I didn't beg. I just nodded and walked to my room, if you could even call it that. I packed what I could, which wasn't much. A few clothes, my guitar, and whatever fit in one bag. That was everything I had, everything I was allowed to take. When I walked back out, no one stopped me. No one said anything. And just like that, I walked out of the house I thought was mine, with no plan, no direction, just a guitar and a life that had nowhere to go. The first night on the street is the one you never forget. Not because something dramatic happens, but because nothing protects you anymore. There are no walls, no doors, no space that belongs to you, just open air and the reality that you're on your own. I didn't know where to go, so I followed the only thing that made sense. People like me, the places where others had already gathered, under bridges, near abandoned buildings, dark corners of the city where no one else wanted to be. That's where I ended up, and that's where I learned how different survival really is. It's not just about finding food or a place to sleep. It's about staying safe. Because not everyone out there is struggling the same way. Some people are dangerous. Fights happen. Arguments over nothing. People protecting what little they have, or trying to take from someone else. You learn quickly, or you don't last. I kept my head down, stayed quiet, didn't get involved, just focused on getting through each day. Government assistance helped a little, just enough to survive, never enough to live. Most days. I played my guitar, not because I expected anything, but because it was the only thing I knew how to do, the only thing that still felt like me. People walked past, some glanced, most didn't. A few dropped coins, not many, just enough to remind you, you're still there, but not enough to change anything. And slowly, days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and the idea of getting out started to feel less real, like something that belonged to another version of me, a version that no longer existed. There was one thing that hurt more than everything else. It wasn't the hunger, it wasn't the cold, it wasn't even the fear, it was them. Because I didn't just lose my family, I had to watch them, pretend I didn't exist. Every single day, same time, same street, same routine. They walked past me, dressed well, put together, like nothing had ever changed. And I sat there, on the ground, playing my guitar, hoping maybe today would be different. Maybe today they would stop, just for a second, just long enough to acknowledge me. But they never did. Not once. Not even by accident. It was intentional, deliberate, like they had agreed on it, like I wasn't worth the risk of being seen. And the worst part, I stopped expecting it. At first, I watched them, every time, hoping, waiting. But after a while, I learned not to look, because it was easier that way. Easier to pretend I didn't see them than to accept that they saw me and chose to ignore me. That kind of silence, it stays with you. It follows you. It changes how you see yourself. Because when the people who raised you decide you don't matter, it's hard not to believe them. And little by little, I did. There comes a point when you stop fighting. Not because you want to, but because you don't see a way out. For me, that moment came quietly. No big event, no clear breaking point, just a slow realization that nothing was changing. Days blurred together, same street, same routine, same empty feeling. Even the music started to feel different, not like an escape anymore, just something I did to pass the time, to fill the silence. And one night, I remember sitting there, looking at the coins in front of me, counting them. Not because it mattered, but because I needed to feel like I had some kind of control. It wasn't enough, not for anything real, just enough to survive another day. And for the first time, I didn't feel frustrated. I didn't feel angry. I felt empty, like something inside me had just stopped, like I had accepted it, this life, this version of me, that this was it, that nothing was coming, nothing was going to change. And that was the moment everything could have ended, not physically, but mentally, emotionally. That's where people disappear, not from the world, but from themselves. And I was close, closer than I ever want to admit, until I saw something lying on the side of the road, something small, barely moving. And for some reason, I stopped. I don't know why I stopped. Out of everything on that street, I could have just walked past it, like everyone else did, like people had done to me every single day. But I didn't. It was small, barely moving, lying near the edge of the sidewalk, like it had already been forgotten. At first I thought it was dead, but when I got closer, I saw it breathing, slow, weak, struggling. Its fur was dirty, matted. One of its legs looked wrong, and its eyes, they weren't scared, they weren't aggressive, they were just tired. The kind of tired you don't fix with sleep, the kind that comes from being alone for too long. I stood there for a moment, not really thinking, just looking at it. And something about that feeling, it hit me, not all at once, but enough. Because for the first time in a long time, I wasn't looking at something different from me. I was looking at something exactly the same, left behind, ignored, surviving, but barely. And I knew what it felt like. I looked down at the small amount of money in my pocket. Everything I had, not much, barely enough to get through the next day. And I remember thinking, this is stupid. This doesn't make sense. Because that money was survival, food, maybe a place to stay for a night, something real, something I needed. But still, I picked it up, carefully. It didn't resist, didn't even try to move, just stayed there, like it didn't have the strength left to care. And I walked, all the way to the nearest place I could think of, a small veterinary clinic a few blocks away. I didn't even know if they would help, or if I could afford anything, but I walked in anyway. They looked at me first, not the cat, me, the clothes, the dirt, the situation, and I could see it in their eyes, judgment, doubt, maybe even hesitation. But I didn't say much. I just put the cat down, gently, and said, "Can you help it?" That was it. No explanation, no story, just that one question. And for a moment, they didn't answer. Then one of them stepped forward, took the cat, checked it, and finally said, "It'll survive, but it needs treatment." I nodded, even before they told me the cost, because I already knew what I was going to do. I gave them everything I had, every dollar, every coin, and walked out with nothing except that cat. And somehow, that didn't feel like a loss. It felt like something else, something I hadn't felt in a long time. Like I had chosen something, instead of just reacting to everything around me. The next few days weren't easier. If anything, they were harder, because now I wasn't just responsible for myself. I had something else to take care of, something that depended on me. But I didn't regret it, not even for a second. I carried it with me everywhere. At first, just to make sure it was okay. Then because I didn't trust leaving it alone. And eventually, because I didn't want to. It started following me, sitting close when I played, watching, quiet, present. And then one day, it climbed onto my shoulder, just naturally, like it had always been there. I didn't think much of it, at least not at first. I just kept playing, same street, same songs, same routine. But something was different. People stopped. More than usual. They didn't just walk past. They slowed down, looked. Some smiled. Some pulled out their phones. I didn't understand it at first, until I noticed what they were looking at. Not me, the cat, sitting there on my shoulder, completely calm while I played. It was unusual, unexpected, something people hadn't seen before. And that's how it started. Small at first, a few people recording, a few more stopping, a few more coins, nothing big, nothing dramatic, but different. And different is enough. Because one video turned into another, and another. People started sharing it, not because they knew me, but because it felt real. A homeless guy playing music with a cat on his shoulder. Simple, but something about it connected, and slowly, without me even realizing it, things started to change. Not overnight, not in a way that fixed everything, but enough to create something new. Attention, opportunity, a shift. Because for the first time, people weren't just walking past me anymore. They were stopping, looking, listening. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't invisible. At first, I didn't trust it. Not the attention, not the people stopping, not even the extra money. Because when you've lived long enough without anything, you stop believing in change. You start expecting things to disappear. So when more people began to stop in front of me, I told myself it was temporary, just another moment, just another random day where something different happened, and then it would go back to normal. But it didn't. The next day, more people stopped. Not a lot, but more than before. Some of them didn't even look at me at first. They looked at the cat, sitting on my shoulder, completely still, like it belonged there, like it had always been there. And then they noticed the music. Then they stayed, not just for a few seconds, but for full songs. Some of them smiled. Some of them laughed quietly. Some of them just stood there, watching. And when I finished playing, they clapped. Not loudly, not like a concert, but enough. Enough to feel it. Enough to know something was different. That had never happened before. Not like that. Before, people walked past. Maybe dropped a coin, maybe didn't. But they didn't stay. They didn't connect. This was different. And slowly, the money started to change. Not dramatically, not life-changing, but noticeable. Coins turned into bills. Small tips became something more consistent. Some days were still bad, but not all of them. And that alone was new. For the first time, I wasn't just surviving randomly. There was a pattern, something building, still fragile, still uncertain, but real. Then one day, someone showed me a video. It was me, sitting there, playing, the cat on my shoulder, same street, same moment, but through someone else's eyes. And it had views, thousands, more than I could understand. People had commented, shared it, talked about it. Not about me, not really, but about what they saw. A homeless guy singing with a cat. Simple, but something about it connected. And I realized something in that moment. I didn't need people to know me. I just needed them to stop, to look, to feel something. And for the first time, that was happening. But even then, I didn't think it would last. Because I had learned the hard way that good moments don't stay. The attention didn't explode overnight. It grew, slowly, in a way that felt almost unnoticeable until you looked back. People started recognizing me, not by name, but by what they remembered. The guy with the cat, that's what I became. And somehow, that was enough to matter. They would walk by, then stop, turn back, like something clicked. Oh, it's him. That moment, that recognition, it changed everything. Because being remembered is different from being seen. And I had spent a long time being neither. Now, I was something people could point to, something they could share, something they could talk about. And that created something new, consistency. I started earning more, still not a lot, still not stable, but better, enough to eat regularly, enough to not worry every single night, enough to breathe. And that changed how I played. Before, I played to survive. Now, I played with intention. I practiced more, stayed longer, paid attention to what people reacted to, what made them stay, what made them feel something. I started writing again, not just random melodies, but real songs. Songs about what I was living, what I felt, what I had lost. And somehow, people connected to that too. The cat stayed with me through everything. Always there, always calm, like it understood the moment better than I did. And over time, it became part of the act. Not planned, not forced, just real. And that's what people responded to. But even as things improved, I knew something important. This wasn't the end. This wasn't success. This was just a step. Because no matter how many people stopped, no matter how many videos got views, I was still on the street, still one bad day away from losing everything again. The idea didn't hit me all at once. It wasn't like I woke up one day and suddenly believed everything could change. It came slowly, through conversations, through people who stopped a little longer than usual, through moments that felt small, but stayed in my head longer than they should have. Someone mentioned a competition. At first, I didn't pay attention. There are always competitions, always opportunities, always something that sounds bigger than it really is. And most of the time, they don't matter, not for people like me. But this one kept coming up. Different people, different days, same topic, same tone. You should try. At first I brushed it off, not because I didn't want it, but because I didn't see how it was possible. That kind of stage, that kind of attention, that kind of money doesn't belong to someone sitting on the street. It belongs to people with structure, people with support, people who already have something, not someone trying to build everything from nothing. But the idea stayed. It didn't go away, even when I ignored it, even when I told myself it wasn't realistic. It kept coming back, quietly, until one day, I stopped ignoring it. I borrowed someone's phone, looked it up myself. The competition was real, bigger than I expected. Citywide at first, then regional, then national. Multiple stages, real judges, real exposure. And the prize was more money than I had ever seen in my life. Not just survival money, not just get through the week money, real money, the kind that changes everything, the kind that gives you options, a way out. And for a moment, I allowed myself to imagine it, standing on that stage, not as someone on the street, but as someone being seen, actually seen, heard, recognized, not for the situation I was in, but for what I could do. And that feeling, it was dangerous, because once you let yourself see a way out, it's hard to go back to pretending there isn't one. So I kept reading, scrolling, looking at every detail, every requirement, every condition, trying to understand what it would take. And then I saw it. One line, simple, clear, non-negotiable. Applicants must provide a permanent address and family verification. I read it again, slower this time. Like maybe I missed something. Maybe there was another option, another way around it. But there wasn't. It was exactly what it looked like. And just like that, everything stopped. The idea, the possibility, the momentum I had started to feel, all of it hit a wall. Because this wasn't about talent. It wasn't about how well I could play or how many people would listen. It was about something else, something I didn't have anymore. A place that was officially mine. A family that would stand behind me. A name that meant something. And in that moment, it felt familiar. Too familiar. Because it wasn't the first time I had been told I didn't qualify. Not because I wasn't capable, but because I didn't fit, didn't belong, didn't meet a requirement that had nothing to do with who I actually was. I sat there for a long time, not moving, not playing, just thinking. Because for the first time in a while, I had seen a real way out. And just as quickly, it was taken away. Or at least, that's what it felt like. I tried to let it go. I really did. I told myself it didn't matter, that I had already made progress, that I didn't need something like that to move forward, that I could find another way. But none of that felt real, because deep down, I knew the truth. This wasn't just another opportunity. This was different. This was a way out, a real one, not temporary, not uncertain, something concrete, something that could actually change everything. And once you see something like that, you can't unsee it. It stays with you, it follows you, it shows up in the quiet moments, when you're sitting alone, when you're not playing, when there's nothing to distract you, and it asks the same question over and over again. What if? What if you tried? What if you didn't walk away this time? What if this was the moment that mattered? And every time that question came up, I had the same answer. I don't have what they need. I don't have an address. I don't have a family that would sign for me. I don't have a place to go back to. And then another thought followed. Quieter, but stronger. You do. You just don't want to go back. And that was the real conflict. Not whether it was possible, but whether I was willing to face it. To go back to the place that pushed me out. To stand in front of the people who erased me. To ask for something. After everything that had happened. Every part of me resisted it. Not out of pride, but out of memory. Because I knew how that door closed. I knew what it felt like to stand there and realize you don't belong. And going back meant risking that again. But this time, it wasn't about belonging. It wasn't about being accepted. It wasn't about fixing anything from the past. It was about something much simpler. I needed something. And they were the only ones who could give it. Not support, Not approval, just a signature, just a confirmation, something small that meant everything. So I stopped thinking about how it felt and started thinking about what it would take. And once I did that, the decision became clear. Not easy, but clear. I was going back. Not as the person who left, not as someone hoping to be welcomed, but as someone who had a reason, a purpose, a direction. And that changed everything. So I waited, watched, until I saw them again. Same street, same time, same routine, walking past me like they always did. And for a moment, I almost stayed where I was, almost let it happen again. But this time, I didn't. I stood up, slowly, picked up my guitar, and instead of looking down, I looked forward and followed them, step by step, closer, back to the place that once closed the door on me. The closer I got to that house, the slower my steps became. Not because I didn't know where I was going, but because every step forward felt like stepping back into something I had already escaped. The street hadn't changed. Same houses, same quiet, same feeling in the air. But it didn't feel familiar anymore. It felt distant, like I didn't belong there, even before I reached the door. I stopped for a moment, just standing outside, looking at it, that house, the place I once called home, the place that told me I wasn't part of it anymore. And for a second, I almost turned around, almost told myself it wasn't worth it, that I didn't need this, that I could find another way. But I didn't move, because I knew the truth. There was no other way. So I stepped forward, raised my hand, and knocked. The sound felt louder than it should have, sharp, final, like something you can't take back once it's done. A few seconds passed, then I heard footsteps, slow, measured. The door opened, and there she was. Nothing had changed. Same expression, same eyes, same feeling. She looked at me from head to toe, taking in everything, the clothes, the guitar, the life I was living. And I could see it instantly. Disgust, not surprise, not confusion, just confirmation, like I had become exactly what she expected. "You're still like this?" she said, not even a question, more like a statement. I didn't respond. I didn't come here for that. "I need a signature," I said, straight to the point. No explanation, no emotion, just the reason I was there. She laughed, not loud, but enough. "Of course you do." That tone, it hadn't changed. "You disappear, live like this." She gestured at me. "And now you come back asking for something?" I stayed still. "I'm applying for a competition," I said. "I just need confirmation." Simple, clear, no room for interpretation. For a moment, she didn't say anything. Then her expression changed. Slightly, not softer, worse, mocking. "A competition?" she repeated, like the word itself was ridiculous. Behind her, I saw movement, her daughters, standing there, watching, whispering to each other, smiling, like this was entertainment. "Do you even hear yourself?" she said. "You can't even take care of yourself. And you think you're going to win something?" Each word landed exactly where it was meant to. Not loud, but precise, designed to cut. I didn't react. Not outwardly, but I felt it, every word, because part of me still remembered what it was like to be in that house, still remembered trying to prove something, still remembered failing. "I'm not asking for anything else," I said, "just a signature." That's when she stepped forward, took the paper from my hand, looked at it. For a few seconds, it felt like maybe, just maybe, she would sign it. But then she smiled, slow, cold, and without saying a word, she tore it right in front of me, one clean motion, then another and another, until there was nothing left. The pieces fell to the ground between us, and just like that, it was over. "This is your reality," she said, quiet, firm. "You don't belong in places like that. You never did." Behind her, I saw him, my father, standing further inside the house, watching, silent, same as before. Our eyes met, just for a second. And in that moment, I wasn't angry. I wasn't even surprised. I just understood. Nothing had changed. Not here, not for them. He didn't step forward, didn't say anything, didn't stop her. And that told me everything I needed to know. So I bent down, picked up my guitar, didn't look at the paper, didn't look at her. I just turned and walked away. But before I reached the end of the path, I heard something behind me, soft, quick footsteps. I turned slightly. It was him. He didn't say much, didn't look at me directly. He just slipped something into my hand, folded, small, money, about $100. "I can't," he started, then stopped. Couldn't finish the sentence. Didn't need to. I looked at him for a moment. I wanted to say something, ask something, but I didn't, because there was nothing left to ask. So I nodded and walked away, again. But this time, it felt different. Not like I had lost something, but like something had finally ended. And behind me, the door closed, just like it did before. Only this time, I didn't turn back. I didn't go back to the same corner right away. Not because I didn't want to, but because something inside me needed a moment to settle. Not anger, not sadness, just silence. The kind of silence that comes after something ends. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't expecting anything. Not from them, not from the world, not even from myself. I just walked. No direction, no plan. The guitar in one hand, the cat resting against my chest. And that was enough. Because when you stop expecting something to change, you stop feeling disappointed when it doesn't. And that's where I was, empty, but steady. A few days passed like that. Same routine, same street, same songs, but something was different. Not outside, inside. I wasn't waiting anymore. I wasn't hoping. I was just there. And strangely, that made everything feel lighter. Then one afternoon, something shifted, not in my life, in the world around me. I noticed it slowly. People stopping more than usual, not just watching, talking, looking at their phones, showing each other something. At first, I didn't think it had anything to do with me. Why would it? Things like that don't just change overnight. But then someone walked up to me, excited, almost out of breath. "Did you see it?" he asked. I shook my head. He pulled out his phone, turned the screen toward me, and that's when I saw it, the competition, the same one I had looked up, the same one that had turned me away. But something was different. There were headlines, comments, videos, people arguing, complaining, calling it unfair, discriminatory, outdated. Why does someone need a permanent address to compete? What does family verification have to do with talent? This is supposed to be about music. The more I read, the more I understood. A judge had stepped down, publicly, refused to be part of it, called out the rule, and that changed everything. Because when something becomes public, it becomes pressure, and pressure forces change. Protests started, online first, than in real life, people showing up, speaking out, refusing to support something that didn't make sense. And the organizers, they couldn't ignore it, not at that level, not with that kind of attention. So they did the only thing they could do. They removed the rule, just like that. No permanent address required, no family verification, open entry for anyone, for everyone. I stared at the screen for a long time, not reacting, not speaking, just processing, because I had already let it go, already accepted that it wasn't for me. And now, it was back, not slightly, completely, like the door that had been closed was suddenly wide open, and for a moment, I didn't move. Because hope, after you've let it go, feels unfamiliar, almost dangerous, like something you shouldn't trust too quickly. But this time, it was real. No conditions, no barriers, nothing stopping me, except one thing, myself. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't luck. This wasn't random. This was timing. The moment I stopped chasing it, it came back. Not because I forced it, but because I was still there when it mattered. Still playing, still showing up, still moving forward, even when I thought it wouldn't lead anywhere. So, I didn't hesitate this time. I didn't overthink it. I didn't question whether I was ready, because I already knew something important. I didn't need to be ready. I just needed to try. I took the phone, looked at the registration, filled in what I could, skipped what no longer mattered, and submitted it right there on the street. Same place where I had been ignored, same place where everything started. And when it was done, I didn't feel different. I didn't feel like I had won anything. But I felt something else, something simple, clear. I was back in the game. Not as someone hoping to survive, but as someone finally given a chance. And this time, there was nothing left to stop me. Walking into the audition felt unreal. Not because I didn't believe I could be there, but because of where I came from. Just weeks ago, I was sitting on the street, playing for coins, being ignored. And now, I was standing in line with people who had trained for years, people with polished voices, perfect appearances, confidence, structure, everything I didn't have. Some of them looked at me, at my clothes, at the guitar, at the cat resting on my shoulder, and I could see it again. That same look, the one I had seen my whole life. Doubt, judgment, dismissal. But this time, it didn't land the same, because I wasn't here to belong. I was here to play. When my name was called, I walked in. No introduction, no explanation, just me, the guitar, and the cat. The judges looked confused at first. Not impressed, not interested, just unsure, until I started playing. The first song wasn't written for a stage. It wasn't written for an audience. It was written on a sidewalk, late at night, when no one was listening. It was about being invisible, about watching your own life from the outside. And as I played, something shifted, not in me, in the room. The judges leaned forward. The noise disappeared, because they weren't just hearing music. They were hearing something real, something unfiltered, something that didn't come from training, but from experience. And when I finished, there was silence. Not confusion, not hesitation, just silence. The kind that means something landed. Next round, one of them said. Simple, but enough. And just like that, I was in. The local round was different. Bigger stage, more people, more pressure. But I didn't change anything. Same guitar, same cat, same voice. Because I didn't need to perform differently. I just needed to tell the truth. The second song was about the streets, about nights with no sleep, about people fighting over nothing, about surviving in a place where no one is really safe. And this time, the audience reacted. Not loudly at first, but you could feel it, that tension, that connection, because most of them had never seen that world. But now, they could feel it, and that's what made the difference. I wasn't competing with technique. I was bringing something they couldn't fake. And I moved forward, again. By the time I reached the regional level, everything was bigger. Lights, cameras, crowds. People started recognizing me. The guy with the cat. But now, it wasn't just about the cat. It was about the story, my story. The third song was about family, about standing in front of a door and realizing you don't belong on the other side anymore, about silence, about being erased. And when I played that, something broke. You could see it. People weren't just watching, they were feeling it. Some looked down, some wiped their eyes. Even one of the judges stopped writing and just listened, because that song wasn't entertainment, it was truth. And truth is hard to ignore. The final stage was different, not just bigger, heavier, because this was it. One performance, one moment that decided everything. I walked onto that stage with the same guitar, the same cat, nothing added, nothing changed. Because everything I needed, I already had. And the last song was different. It wasn't about pain, not entirely. It wasn't about being invisible or being rejected. It was about something else. Survival, growth, becoming something without anyone giving you permission. It was everything. All the nights, all the silence, all the moments no one saw turned into sound. And as I played, there was no stage, no audience, no competition, just the story, from beginning to now. And when I finished, there was silence for a second. Then it hit. Applause, loud, real, uncontrolled, not polite, not expected, earned. People stood up, not all at once, but enough to feel it, enough to know. This wasn't just another performance. This was something they wouldn't forget. The results didn't come immediately. But I already knew, not the outcome, but the impact. Because for the first time, I wasn't invisible. Not to them, not to anyone. And when they finally said my name as the winner, it didn't feel like luck. It didn't feel like a surprise. It felt like something that had been building for a long time, finally reaching the surface. Fame didn't hit all at once. It didn't feel like a sudden explosion. It came in waves, slow at first, then impossible to ignore. More people recognized me, not just on the street anymore, online, on screens, in places I had never been. My name, something I hadn't heard anyone say in a long time, was suddenly everywhere. Interviews, clips, performances being shared again and again. And the story, my story, became something people talked about. Not just the music, not just the cat, but where I came from, what I had been through, what it took to get there. And that's when it happened. Not immediately, but eventually. Because things like that, they always circle back. I was leaving a small studio one afternoon. Nothing special, just another interview, another conversation about how it feels. And I saw them, standing across the street, not walking past, not pretending I wasn't there, just standing, waiting. For a second, everything slowed down. not because I was shocked, but because I recognized the moment. This was it. The same people who once couldn't even look at me were now standing there, not sure how to approach. I didn't move right away. I just stood there, looking at them. The distance between us wasn't far, but it felt like something much bigger. Finally, they started walking toward me, not confidently, not like before, slower, careful, uncertain, and for the first time, they didn't control the situation. She spoke first. Of course she did, but her tone was different. Not sharp, not cold, carefully chosen. "We've been trying to reach you." I didn't respond. Not immediately, because I wanted to see what came next. "We saw everything," she continued. "The competition, the win." A pause. Then, "We're proud of you." That word, proud, it landed strangely. Not because I wanted it, but because I knew where it came from. Not from understanding, not from regret, from outcome, from success, from the fact that now I was something they could associate with. I looked at her, then at my father. He stood slightly behind, same as always, but something in his expression was different. Not guilt, not exactly, more like relief, like he had been waiting for this moment, but didn't know if it would ever come. "You should come home," she said, and there it was, simple, direct, like nothing had happened, like the past could just be ignored, like the door had never been closed. I almost smiled, not because it was funny, but because it was predictable. That's how it works. When you have nothing, you don't belong. When you have something, suddenly there's space for you again. I didn't answer her. Instead, I asked something else. "Why now?" She hesitated, just for a second, but it was enough. "To fix things," she said, but we both knew that wasn't the truth, so I nodded slowly, like I understood, even though I didn't accept it. "I'm not coming back," I said, calm, no anger, no edge, just a fact, the kind you don't argue with. Her expression changed, not dramatically, but enough. "That's not what we meant," she said quickly. "We just thought maybe we could..." I didn't let her finish, because I already knew where it was going. This wasn't about fixing anything. This was about access, about connection, about benefiting from something they once rejected. "I'm doing fine," I said, still calm, still steady. And that was the moment everything shifted. Because for the first time, they realized something. I didn't need them, not emotionally, not financially, not in any way. The power had changed, completely. My father stepped forward slightly, not enough to interrupt, just enough to be seen. "I watched every performance," he said quietly. That caught me off guard. Not because of what he said, but because he said anything at all. "I was there," he added, "every round." I looked at him, really looked, and for the first time, I saw something I hadn't seen before. Not weakness, not silence, but effort. Small, late, but real. "I'm glad you won," he said. And that was it. No speech, no explanation, just that. And somehow, that meant more than everything else. I nodded, once, because I understood. Not everything, but enough. She started to speak again, but I didn't listen this time, because the conversation was already over. Not out loud, but in reality. There was nothing left to fix, nothing left to return to. That version of me, the one that needed them, was gone. And the person standing here now didn't need to go back. So I stepped back, not dramatically, not to make a point, just naturally. "I have somewhere to be," I said. simple, polite, final. And then I turned, walked away, not looking back. Not this time, because I didn't need to. I didn't hate them. That's the part most people expect. That after everything, after being ignored, after being pushed out, after being treated like I didn't exist, I would come back angry, looking for revenge, looking to prove something. But the truth is, I didn't feel any of that, because somewhere along the way, I stopped needing them to understand me. And once you stop needing that, you stop giving people power over how you feel. They didn't change. Not really. Their behavior changed. Because my situation changed. And that's something you have to understand. Some people don't see you until there's something to gain from seeing you. And when that happens, you have a choice. You can go back, try to rebuild something that was never really there, or you can move forward and build something that doesn't depend on them at all. I chose to move forward, not because I didn't care, but because I finally understood something simple. Where you come from doesn't get to decide where you stay. And the people who couldn't see your value before don't get to define it later. So, I'll ask you something, not about me, about you. If the same people who ignored you only started paying attention when you succeeded, would you let them back into your life? Or would you keep moving without looking back? Comment 1 if you would give them another chance. Comment 2 if you would walk away for good. I want to see how many people really understand this.